Recognized Uncle Walker D01. Recognized Emily of Arden D12.
Hello, team. Thanks for joining us for episode 12 of Whelmed, the Young Justice Files, Season 2. Welcome to the warehouse. My name is Rich, and I'm here with my co-host, Emily.
Hey, everybody.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter at the YJ Files, on Facebook at Crashing the Mode, on our website, crashingthemode.com, on theyjfiles.tumblr.com, and if none of that is your fancy, at our email address, whelmedpodcast@gmail.com.
Density shifting, shape shifting, all the powers of a Martian except...
Heroes of Earth, I established this link to better coordinate our attack.
Telepathy. That clinches it. This guy's the green beetle of Mars.
So another alien? Do we leave them to fight it out?
And with that housekeeping out of the way, let's get into...
Hello, Megan.
So, the title of this week's episode is True Colors. The release date was January 19th, 2013, just 1 week after the previous episode on January 12th. The in-episode date is April 7th through 9th. The director was Mel Zwire, and the writer was Paul Giacopo. Still how I'm saying that.
I think that sounded really good, actually. I'm not sure how we pronounce that. Special guest voice credits this week. We have the return of Nick Chinlin as a Sportsmaster. Sadly, the late Miguel Ferrer returns as Vandal Savage. Kevin Graveau as Black Beetle. Phil Lamar shows up again as Green Beetle. God, I love Phil Lamar. The man's everywhere.
He's great.
Yeah. Jason Marsden as the Atom, Ray Palmer, and Impulse, which is interesting. I did not catch that one at all. And then I don't know, living in a world of irony, Mark Rolston as both Lex Luthor and Jonathan Kent. There's just something not okay with that. Just not okay.
He plays half of the entire Kent family.
Well, yeah, I guess. Exactly. I'm like, the way that they do, like, they had Carrie Payton doing Black Manta and Aqualad, and look how that turned out. So I don't even want to know what's going on with Jonathan Kent.
Season 3 twist, Jonathan Kent is the real villain.
Jonathan Kent is actually Lex Luthor's dad, as well as... Oh, this got weird really fast. All right, let's get into this mission briefing.
Just in time for your next mission.
So, in our pre-credit scene, we see Bumblebee and Adam in what appears to be an underwater cave, I guess, attempting to destroy some sort of robotic thing. Like, it's not made clear early on what we're doing here. Well, at first their plan seems to be working out pretty well. The blue piece of tech that they're attacking begins making antibodies that attack the two heroes and repair the damage. Karen and Dr. Palmer are then extracted from the situation, literally, as it turns out that they had shrunk down to microscopic size to enter Jaime's bloodstream and try to remove his scarab. Much to Jaime's disappointment, it doesn't work out, and Dr. Palmer admits that they may never be able to remove it while Jaime's still alive.
Oh. Post-credit, we get our favorite G. Gordon Godfrey reveals to us and the team that the Reach has officially partnered with Lex Luthor. Nightwing, understandably suspicious, then sends Alpha Squad, this time made up of Blue, Impulse, Arsenal, and led by Tim Drake Robin, undercover to investigate the Reach at LexCorp Farms. Before heading out, Arsenal gives us a glimpse of his rebel attitude by challenging Nightwing and asking why they aren't meeting in the Watchtower. Despite this, Nightwing still lets Roy go on this mission. Oh my god, Roy.
We'll see how that works out.
Every time I see Roy now, whatever Roy, I think back on Crispin talking about how he approached it with the psychology, how Arsenal's psychology is very different than Clone Roy is very different than, you know what I mean? It's it's really interesting. You can hear it in the voice. It's nice.
Yeah, that's fascinating discussion. People haven't listened to that. Go listen to that.
God, go listen to Crispin Freeman blow your mind. Go do that now.
Yeah, and then come back and then finish this episode.
Yeah.
He's more interesting than we are.
He's an interesting guy.
So, later at LexCorp Farms in Smallville, where Alpha Squad, now in their civilian wear, is taking a public tour of the facility. The squad sneaks a few food samples for testing for later and tries to gather more info from the tour guide before slipping off from the tour group to do a little more investigating. Let's go do that for a little while.
Yeah. We then hop over to a meeting between Sportsmaster and the Light, where he attempts to get reparations for Artemis's death. While the Light offers him financial compensation for the loss of his daughter, they refuse to let him kill Calder to even the score. Sportsmaster attempts to kill Black Manta on the spot instead, but is stopped by the appearance of Deathstroke. Before Deathstroke can kill him, though, Sportsmaster escapes in a getaway helicopter piloted by Cheshire. He assures her that even without the Light's permission, they'll be going after both Aqualad and Black Manta, because he's now... I had to make the offer, and they refused it. So now my weirdly twisted sense of honor is... God, that guy's messed up.
Father of the Year. Father of the Year, truly.
Guy, jeez.
Back at LexCorp Farms, later that night, Alpha Squad, now in full costume, set out to do some late-night recon. They witness several Reach scientists adding an alien additive to the crop's fertilizer, and Robin is able to grab a small sample before they attempt to escape. But despite Robin's warnings that this was a covert mission, Arsenal decides it's a good idea to blow up the lab and blow their cover.
Wait for it.
Why? Lex Luthor watches this scene unfold from his office, but tells Mercy not to bother calling in extra guards, because at that exact moment, Black Beetle arrives to confront the young heroes.
Guards would be redundant. Alpha Squad tries to take him on head first, but he's able to brush off all their attacks without any effort. While Jaime was able to go toe-to-toe with Black Beetle in the previous fight, he's actually refuses, understandably this time, to give the Scarab control, even if it might be their only way to win, because he doesn't want to lose control of the Scarab.
We then cut back over to a Manta sub somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, where Black Manta brings Vandal Savage to see Calderon, who is bedridden and unresponsive since his encounter with McGann. Manta vows revenge on Miss Martian, but Savage says that right now it's more important to worry about fixing Calder, and brings in Simon as essentially a psychic healer to piece Calder's mind back together.
Oh, goody.
Oh, that can only go well.
Yeah, sure. Simon's here to help. The fight continues back at LexCorp Farms, where the squad switches tactics from trying to win to trying to get away. The group escapes into the neighboring cornfields, because it's Kansas, but they know there's no way they can all outrun Beetle. Black Beetle, that is. As if to prove their point, Black Beetle catches up to them, and then another Beetle, this one green, also appears on the scene. While the squad's ready to take on both aliens, we go down fighting. It turns out that Green Beetle is actually on their side and attacks Black.
So, Robin notices that this Green Beetle seems to have Martian powers, and the establishment of a telepathic link between them reveals that this individual must be the Beetle from Mars, apparently. A coordinated attack from all members of the squad, culminating in a double sonic cannon attack from both Beetles, eventually takes out Black Beetle, long enough for the rest of the team to escape to the Kent family farm.
There on the farm, the Green Beetle, known as Barzoom, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, reveals how he came to be attached to his Scarab, what he knows about the Reach's plan to use the Scarabs to create advanced operatives for their inevitable invasion of the planet, and how he came to be on Earth. Nightwing says that the League will have to confirm his story, but for now they're willing to trust him. Tim doesn't rat out Arsenal, which is interesting, despite Arsenal blowing the mission. And the Green Beetle tells Blue that there may be another way to overcome his fear of the Scarab without removing it and killing him.
And then, finally, back at LexCorp Farms, Lex Luthor walks through a facility with Vandal Savage and reveals that the most important part of the project, a factory producing ominous-looking energy drinks, went undamaged and undiscovered during the mission. Then back in his office, Lex also reveals that the team got a sample of the additive, just like he wanted them to, and says that perhaps the Light now needs to make their own team of young supervillains.
Yikes.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Superboy, are you alright?
I'm fine. Feeling the Aster.
You got some stuff. Sorry. I just noticed your all capital letters. No, that's a rutabaga. That was totally
Okay.
Phil. That was totally Phil Lamar going, no, that's a rutabaga.
I
That
thought
funny.
it was
I just-
Crispin Freeman. I'll be
No.
honest. I thought,
Really?
okay.
Oh,
I
maybe
thought it was Crispin
No,
Freeman.
I'm pretty sure it was Phil Lamar, but I
Let's
could be
ask
wrong.
people on Twitter later. when this
We should.
episode goes
We'll
up.
ask Crispin later. It cracks me up.
Because I have to talk about this one simply because when this episode premiered, that became a meme online, essentially.
Oh, really?
Like, the fandom latched onto the phrase, now that's a rutabaga, because it's so out of nowhere.
I forget every time I watch this episode, and I lose it. I'm cracking up every single time. Because it's like, there's people like, oh, it's so nice, it's so fresh, or whatever, and they're like all this stuff, but it's over talking each other, and then there's like everybody's quiet, like that moment at a party when you say something you shouldn't have said, but everybody gets quiet right when you say it really loud. It's like that. Oh, it's a rutabaga.
It's so perfect because it's also so specific. They could have picked any vegetable, but they went with that.
It's very specific. It's not a pluot or a tomato. It's a rutabaga.
And because I put this in here and I wanted to mention it, there was literally a point in the fandom where when people started trying to figure out how to like campaign to bring the show back, people were like people were doing research into like how other shows had been brought back and how like fans would send letters, or like an entire fandom would agree that like we're all gonna send in X item that is important to main character of show. And when people were coming up with ideas for what to do, there was briefly a campaign of what if we all mail rutabagas to Cartoon Network?
Oh my god.
And it was the funniest thing.
That's so funny. All right.
Yeah.
I'll do a mini. Why don't I do a mini Secret Origin on rutabagas? I should do that right now. All right. This is us with me with actual sleep, which is just ridiculous. Neal may cut all of this rutabaga talk. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get on to some actual stuff that happened.
Hey, Rich, how about you start?
I'll start. Okay, the opening scene with Adam and Bumblebee was fantastic. I don't know if it's because I grew up watching Fantastic Voyage when I was a kid, but it had all of those tropes and feel of that, which I absolutely love. I love that it wasn't just Adam. I love that it wasn't just Bumblebee. I love that they're working together as a team because she's his lab assistant. And it just nods to this idea that, you know, she built this suit, you know, this armor for herself in kind of a reflection of Adam's work so that they could do more work. Really, like, she's a superhero on the side, but it's like maybe her primary reason for building this was science, which is really kind of cool. Anyway, I love any scene where they're pulling in the tech and heroes from across the DC universe to solve a problem. They did this with the Atom in Justice League Unlimited as well. During an episode called The Dark Heart, Justice League Unlimited, that series, that one season where it was basically the Justice League versus the United States government, was so brilliant that they brought in the Atom for that one episode because they were dealing with nanite technology, and it was really cool. So I love that. I love it when they do that.
Though I'll be honest, the cold open honestly makes my skin crawl a little bit, because once you realize, at first I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool science, and I'm like, oh, no, you are in Jaime's blood. This is, no, please stop.
Actually, I didn't think about that. That probably bothers some people. Maybe I'm a medical, being a medical professional, it did not bother me in the slightest.
It's also the thing of like every time they show Jaime's scarab on his back and how it's like digging into his skin, I'm always like, no, I don't like it.
And now you know it's like punching into his nervous system.
It just gets worse.
I'm here to make things worse for you, Emily. Sorry. I love seeing a full mission with the new team members, even with Arsenal being Arsenal. Like, that team is very, very cool. I found it interesting that Tim has a stealth version of his Robin outfit, where Robin didn't. Robin from season 1, Dick did not have one. I don't know how I feel about that, but I found it interesting that that was a thing. Lex being incredibly calm is always unnerving. Oh, that makes much more sense. No, don't bother. Guards will be redundant. Once again, Young Justice does the Superman mythos better in seconds of screen time than the vast majority of live action shows. Just the one scene with Jonathan Kent, who is, one, alive. Thank you, Young Justice, for not murdering Jonathan. Drives me nuts. And two, just having him say a simple thing like, any excuse to see one of my boys. Like, so much character development across the board for Connor, for Clark, for the family, like, God, that's got to be a whole different world that Connor's living in now with parents, like literally with parents that have adopted him and taken care of him, you know, than he was so lost in season 1. Like, so much depth in that one line.
Yeah. And like Connor is there and he doesn't even say anything. There is no reason for him to be in that scene, like narratively, other than he wanted to see his grandpa.
He wanted to see his dad.
And it's
yeah,
adorable.
exactly.
His dad, his grandfather, I don't know.
dad. Yeah, that's true. Like, well, see, I see Connor
adorable.
as more. It could be either one, I guess, but I see Connor as more Clark's brother.
Yes,
like half brother than I do.
Yeah.
Than I do.
They
his
emphasize
son.
that in this season a lot.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
I think
I think it's just an age thing of like every time they show Jonathan Kent, I'm like he seems a lot older, and
grandpa-ish.
Connor still looks 16. So my mind is like,
yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you could look at it either way, and I don't think either way is wrong or anything like that. It's just that I feel the psychology of it feels much more like it makes sense to them with the older younger brother thing. It's more comfortable for both of them. So, yeah. And speaking of fathers, Vandal Savage, as a father myself, I understand your pain.
yeah.
How much? What? He's been around 50,000 years. How many children has he sired? How many people have died that he's loved and been close to? Literally, it must be tens of thousands. I don't even know. Like, at least thousands. Yeah, so many questions. Interested in that. Green Beetle. I had mentioned this earlier when we were reading through it. First of all, I love the idea that the beetles, scarabs, might incorporate the abilities, the native abilities of the different planets they go to. It actually becomes a little extra horrifying if you're a Legion of Superheroes fan, because the whole point of the Legion of Superheroes in the future is that this team of teenagers have come together, inspired by the tales of Superboy, to create this, this organization of superheroes, right? But the thing is that the majority of the Legion are actually just kids from different planets whose people from their planets have natural abilities. So, for example, Cosmic Boy, who's one of the founders, has, Magneto-like magnetic control powers, but so do everyone on his planet. He happens to be an athlete who plays a Magna Ball, which is this thing. So he's really trained and really good at it, but everybody from his planet has the same powers. So I'd say the majority of the Legion is like that. And so if you think about that from a Scarab's perspective, having a Scarab show up on like Shadowlass's planet, where all of the people on her planet have the ability to project solidified darkness and see in pitch black, and those all of these little like adaptations that can happen become really interesting. Because these planets are out there, even though the Legion isn't until the 30th century. The planets are still there. So, but the other thing I was going to comment on was his name, Bars Ohm. So
many apostrophes.
So many apostrophes. Martians love apostrophes. Or they don't, and just translating it to English requires it. That name comes from the John Carter of Mars novel series pulp novel series from way back in the day. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called John Carter. I think it was just John Carter. And I still haven't seen it yet. It's mixed reviews, but the actual native word for Mars in those series is Barsoom. Barsoom. And so they clearly took that and made a nod to it and put it into the Green Beetle's name. I actually didn't do any research on Green. I don't even know if he shows up in the comics. Honestly, we'll have one of our listeners let us know. But as far as, adapting him for this story, it was pretty cool.
I agree.
What do you have, Em?
Let's see what I have. I love seeing Robin nervous again. It's very cute. He's an adorable leader who doesn't know what he's doing, and it's just fun to watch. Because it's like we got so used to Dick Grayson knowing exactly what to do and being so confident that now like new Robin comes and he's like, what do you mean you want me to lead? I can't do that. Yep. I'm just Tim. And I'm like, oh,
I like how he quickly takes it, though. He's like, me? Okay, I'm in. I'll do it.
Sure, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Arsenal's going to blow up the whole mission, but I'll figure it out.
Right.
Oh, that's just fun. It's just fun to see that again.
And for Tim, I think it's really interesting because the Tim, if they have his origins similar to the comics, like Dick was used to doing crazy stuff, being a gymnast and being a performer in front of huge crowds of people, and then raised by Bruce. But Tim had normal parents. He's just a really smart kid with a photographic memory, right? So he just showed up, and when he was older than Dick too, in the cave and blah blah blah. So I think he's just not used to being in these situations yet, still, which I think is good. Which would be interesting to see after a few year time jump going into season 3, because it seems like, guessing 2 to 3 years, maybe a year plus or minus there. I'm not sure.
We need to do a whole intel update on all of the Comic-Con stuff.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
so excited. But
for sure, yeah.
back to this episode before we just start talking about Comic-Con.
Oh yeah.
I really liked looking back on this and like paying attention to things that they have the role reversal of Cheshire coming in to save Sportsmaster when he gets attacked by Deathstroke.
Right.
How in Targets he just helicopters in and has to pick her up, and she has to do the same thing this episode.
It was pretty cool. It's like, fortune favors the prepared. He's like, you don't say. And then the wall blows up. It's just like, oh God, why is Sportsmaster so good? It's not right. It's just not right.
You are a man who uses sports equipment to cause crimes.
Yeah.
How are you this good of a villain?
Yeah, 1, you're such a good villain. 2, I'm actually kind of horrified of you. And 3, I'm like, all right, Deathstroke versus Sportsmaster, that should have not been a question who was going to kick whose butt. And now I'm like, I'm still voting Deathstroke, but why is it so close?
But it's a close fight.
Yeah, why is it? It should not be that close. Yeah.
We also have, I always feel like Arsenal needs to chill. I just, as a general thing, I feel like Arsenal needs to chill and not be so reckless.
He
and
needs to spend more
also,
time with Canary.
as episodes went on, after a little while, I was like, you need to chill, but you also need to start going to therapy so that you can chill.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I understand why Arsenal is the way he is. I just don't want to have to put up with it.
Yeah.
Which sounds so horrible.
Yeah. And we'll talk about more of that in the next episode, too. In the next couple of episodes, too. Yeah.
But one thing that I loved in this that I've talked to a few of my friends about it, too, is there is the line in this between Impulse and Blue Beetle where Blue says, if I took Arsenal, could you take Robin? And Impulse responds with, sorry, fast, not strong. And it just reminds me how throughout all of season 1, they have Kid Flash carry people. Like, that's just something Kid
really
Flash can do.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think it's a great way to set him apart from Kid Flash, because so much of this season is like being like, Impulse is faster, Impulse is better, Impulse is the new and improved Kid Flash in a lot of ways that it's presented. And while Bart's younger than Kid Flash by a few years, Tim's probably lighter than Artemis, so like you'd think it might balance out a little bit, but no, and he can't do it. And I think that that's a great way of like being like, Wally's still awesome. Wally could do things that new Speedster can't, and I appreciate that because Wally just feels inferior this whole season, and I want to give him a hug so that he can remember he's special.
We can talk a little bit about that in Crashing the Mode, too, actually. Let's do that, because I have some comments on that, but we'll crash that mode.
Go for it. Cool. I have a note here that just says in all capital letters, Snake Martian.
Yeah.
Because watching this, I'm as we all know, I love Miss Martian and I'm fascinated by her powers. And so I think it's so cool seeing those abilities, those shape-shifting abilities used for something other than just, I'm going to disguise myself as something. He just completely changes his form into like a serpent thing, Green Beetle does, so that he can better attack Black Beetle. And I just think that's fascinating of figuring out like a tactical use for shape-shifting, because I feel like it doesn't get used as that often in a lot of stuff. So that was really interesting. I felt it was interesting enough that I put it in all caps in my original notes.
Right. You get a lot of all caps in this one. Rutabaga and Snake Martian.
Yeah. And of course, I also love any excuse to see one of my boys. It makes me happy that Connor has a family and a support system. And this is the dumbest thing I've ever written at midnight when taking notes, but I kind of, because I'm a nerd and a shipper and whatnot, I want to see Miss Martian in Smallville, and I want to see where that story is, because I feel like there's a story there, and it amuses me. It's like, this isn't the weirdest thing we've had in this barn, and I'm like, okay, my mind just went on like a trail, and I'm like, please give me the tie-in comic where Connor was just like, here's my girlfriend, she's from Mars.
Nice. If you want to see some kind of like a hint or echo of that, again, there was another Justice League episode, Justice League Unlimited episode, where Jean doesn't have anywhere to go at Christmas, and so Clark brings him home. Have you seen that one?
I've watched all of Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
But I have never watched Justice League.
Oh yeah. Unlimited's
I don't
good.
know why.
The regular Justice League is good too, but the Justice League Unlimited, I think, really laid the groundwork for stories like Young Justice, because it had a meta plot through that season that was really interesting and tied back to a bunch of stuff that they were doing. The original first 2 seasons were a little more episodic, mostly let's just tell a good story, and then if we can tie them in, we can. But that one episode where Jean goes home with Clark is pretty funny. So I agree with you. I would love to see a comic or some kind of version of scene with McGann going home.
They're just such normal people, and then their extended family is just all aliens. It's like, this is our adoptive alien son and his adoptive alien brother and his alien girlfriend. No one in our family is normal.
Right. Oh, and then Kara hasn't showed up yet either, so we'll see how that goes.
Season 3.
You did have something else here.
The one like negative thing I have about this episode, that I have about a lot of the later episodes in season 2, is that I feel like a lot of this season, because of how complicated the plot is, ends up feeling like people are rehashing the same facts over and over again. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like we've mentioned like half of the stuff that they talk about the scarab in this episode, like 5 times at this point. And a bunch of like what a metagene is and what a metagene does. I'm like, you don't have to remind us every single episode.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I've seen the whole season already. So like, I know I'm already aware of what the plot is and where things go and how those things go. So I'm like, I get it. You don't need to keep telling me. But at the same time, I'm like, getting the same info from different sources in different words, but having it be the exact same stuff can get a little frustrating. On some level, I get it. It's a Saturday morning cartoon and there are little kids watching and they need to be reminded of the plot. But I honestly almost would have preferred like a previously on Young Justice segment at the beginning of an episode to remind me of that, rather than have it be in the dialogue of people who have just talked about these facts 1 week ago.
Yeah.
Saying them again.
I can appreciate that point of view, but I don't think I have the same point of view. Like, I appreciate what you're... Well, I think a lot of it is because we're binging it. We have the ability to binge. And
True.
5-6 years ago when this was coming out, one, it was a complicated plot, you're right. And more complicated... I mean, I don't think repeating this information was just for, like, little kids. Like, I think layering the information, for me, was okay. When I'm binge watching it, it does jump out at me. I'm like, oh, okay, we're revisiting that again. Okay. But then I have to put it in perspective. Like, there was no really such thing as binging back in the day unless you DVR'd it and that kind of thing. And when they're having 6-month freaking like hiatuses from season 1, I don't know if they knew that was going to happen as they were writing, but they were like, man, we should probably make some comments. And one of the things I actually love about Young Justice is that they don't have a previously on. That they manage to move the plots forward and just dive into the action without having to remind us each time. So I don't think I would have liked that particular option.
Thinking about it, I agree with you. I probably wouldn't have wanted that either. I was just talking out loud.
And it's weird. It's interesting to me because I really like it when they have, I'm like, wow, an animated series is so involved and interesting enough and self-referential enough that they can have a previously on. Actually usually makes me happy, but they didn't do it in Young Justice, and for some reason I was like, oh, okay, now we've gone to the next step, which is we don't need it because, you know, it's got everything you need, like right there. Having said all that, I can see your point. Like, I can see how someone can, you know, come to that conclusion.
It's like, it's one of those things that did not bother me when I was watching this live on TV every Saturday morning.
Right.
It didn't bother me then because I didn't notice it because there was a week in between.
Right.
And it was like, okay, yeah, right, that thing. But when I am sitting down and watching 4 episodes in one night and taking notes,
why would you be doing that?
And then we talk about the metagene. And then half an hour later, I'm like, and then we talk about the metagene. And then a half hour later, I'm like, and then we talk about the metagene. Okay, I get it. I know what a metagene is, guys. But
That's fair.
I feel like there needs to be a little bit of a balance, a little bit between those two things. But yeah, I agree. Like, there's a lot going on,
and it'll matter. Like, people are saying, well, I hope they do a Netflix style all the episodes at once, but I'm not sure people understand the consequences of that. The consequence of that is it's going to come out 6 months later, 9 months later, because if they have to finish every episode and then put them up, I mean, it's the reason why a show like Voltron only has 13 episodes that comes out on Netflix, because they can't do a 26 episode run. If they're doing 26 episodes and you want it out anytime soon, like 2018, then they're probably not going to do a full 26 episode Netflix dump. That would be I'd be worried.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'd be worried about quality at that point. So yeah, we'll see. All right, well, let's get into the Canary debrief, which is actually another one where we're smashing it in with crashing the mode, actually, because I can't talk about it without crashing some mode. So let's get into that.
Stick around.
Tell us something we don't know yet.
Class is in session.
We can't risk altering the time stream. We do that, we're all feeling the mode.
All right. How do you handle mysterious new characters in your story? We're putting this under crashing the mode because Green Beetle is actually working for the Reach, yet even though there were some suspicions, at least on my part, this guy just comes out of nowhere, they did a brilliant job of giving me enough doubt to not see this deception coming. Not fully. In writing and particularly in role-playing games, introducing new supporting cast characters like Green Beetle can send up red flags to your readers immediately. Everybody's suspicious whether your characters in your story or aren't suspicious. Your readers and or players will immediately be suspicious. So how do you handle that? Particularly with paranoid tabletop role-playing game characters, right? you know what I'm talking about. So for both writing and role-playing games, you want to make sure that this new character story is not just believable. Like, oh, okay, I can answer the basic questions. Their story needs to be more likely than the alternative. Bars' story about the Scarab not being prepared for his Martian physiology seems incredibly likely. Like control of his body on a genetic level, powerful psychic abilities, density control, to actually maybe not have it even attached in the first place. It's a little hard to believe the Scarab did manage to take control of Green. So his story checks, at least even with extra suspicion, you're like 50-50 on it, right? Also, you want to have the character, they have to be there for a reason. I can't emphasize this enough. It may seem obvious, but I've read plenty of early draft stories and played in plenty of games and ran a few games, unfortunately, where you feel like a character is there just because the author or the game master wants them to be there, right? Or they're what's called a GMPC, a game master player character. Someone that your game master wants to play themselves, but no one will run a game with them so that they can run a super overpowered beetle, scarab, Martian who take over the story for no apparent reason. Just don't do that. Speaking to the gamers out there, there's nothing wrong with Game Master player characters. Make sure they're there to focus the story and refocus the story on the players who are at the table. Don't take over the story yourself. So in either case, whichever you're talking about, writing, role-playing games, or whatnot, you want to pull what I call a Lex Luthor on the characters in your story. That is, this new character needs to have something critical to offer one or more of your main characters. Best if it's critical, but also very personal to one of the characters. And then don't push it on them. So the new character should be honest. They should pull a Lex. They should answer all questions as willingly as possible. In a game like Dungeons & Dragons, where there are spells like Zone of Truth, the character can answer questions truthfully and still be hiding something. You just have to make sure you know your story. You have to have your story as airtight as possible. And then you let the main character or characters come to this new character on their own. Make this bait so tempting that they come to this supporting cast character. As we'll see for Jaime, it makes this deception even more painful when a character's own needs, in the case of Jaime, I'm calling it a need, or selfish wants, are the reason for their downfall. In this case, Jaime's trying to save the world, and trying to save his own life. And so I don't consider that a selfish want. I consider both of those needs. He has to make that choice, and they've put him in that position, and he took the bait, and we all hurt for him because of it. That's my debrief. You were laughing through so much of that. Like,
I'm just thinking about all of the D&D and all of the tabletop.
Yeah.
And how paranoid everyone gets.
Super paranoid. Oh, yeah. Particularly early on when you first start playing. And then back in the 70s and 80s, it was the Dungeon Master player relationship was very confrontational.
Yeah.
Like, but it's different now with games like Masks and that kind of thing. Like we heard Brandon say, like, I'm on your side. I'm fans of your characters. I want to see them succeed. I also want to see you suffer emotionally, because for my entertainment, right?
Yeah, because it all just reminds me of there's a thing with Critical Role, because everyone knows half of my D&D knowledge is Critical Role, but they have something in that where in one of the later episodes, after their campaign had been going on for a while, and they'd encountered so many NPCs that betrayed them or weren't what they thought they were, or other various stuff that ended up not being what they thought it was originally, as it does, and it all made sense and everything, but they were given a very simple task by someone who seemed relatively trustworthy, and that was like, I'll help you, all you have to do afterwards is bring this box to this place.
Right.
Like, what's in the box? And like, it's my wife's ashes, I want them buried at this place, but I can't get there. Can you just do it for me? And they're like, okay. And then they got there, and it was like, Matthew Mercer, their DM, is like, you have free reign. All you got to do is bury the box. And like, I'm gonna perception check the box.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because, Matt, we don't know what's in this box. Like, are you gonna open it? No, because what if it kills us? And they were just freaking out over a box. And that's how it always goes. Eventually.
There's a brilliant comic called Knights of the Dinner Table. It's been going on for decades. But there's a scene where the characters, and this happens in writing too, like, again, in role-playing games, you are the creator and you are the entertainer and the entertained, right? So if you're a writer, players at your table can give you interesting insights as to what your readers might be going through their head. And sometimes it's just mocked. So in Knights of the Dinner Table, they're walking into a new city, and the Dungeon Master is describing the surroundings like, oh, it's beautiful rolling hills, it's a sunny day, there's beautiful clouds, there's a cow. What's up with the cow? It's a cow. I detect magic on the cow. There's no magic on this cow. Something is preventing this cow from showing us the magic that this cow has. So they end up taking this cow for a while. Like, it's in the comic for a while. They take this cow and they go into a dungeon that's a non-Euclidean dungeon map. And they give the map making, like, job to the least qualified map maker for this north, south, east, west map thing. And they keep running into the same trap, the same pit trap. Like, they keep going around in circles and hitting the same pit trap, except the cow has figured it out and he doesn't want to fall in the pit trap anymore. So they keep pushing the cow in front of them, and the cow won't go any farther. And so they just assume the cow has magical trap detecting abilities instead of them all being idiots. It is hilarious. Pretty much all of that entire story could probably go in the bloopers, but it does prove my point that players and your readers will be suspicious. Give them reasons to doubt their own suspicions. To do that requires skill and some thought, and to be in their shoes for a while. So, yeah. Anyway, more crashing the mode. Do you have anything for crashing the mode, Emily? I got a couple of things, but
not really. I think I had written down that the fact that that's not this episode. That's a later episode. I was gonna say something, then I'm like, wait, that was my crashing the mode for a different episode. So never mind on that.
That's fair. I only have a couple
Go
things.
ahead.
I only have a couple things. One of them really just has to do with Green, and it's really just speculation. Like, so Green's not who he appears to be, right? So where did he come from? Why hadn't Martian Manhunter mentioned that there was a green beetle of Mars, right? Maybe he did mention them, but only to the members who happen to be off-world? Maybe. But it seems like the Lanterns would know what a beetle is. So that's weird. Miss Martian was on Mars for 40 years before she came to Earth, right? 40 plus? and she'd never heard of him. So that's interesting. Like that she shows up in a later episode.
Yep.
And sees him and just accepts him for who he is, and then, does a telepathic check, that kind of thing, but still strange. Then it also is like, well, if he was on Mars, why didn't the Reach go to Mars first, take over Mars, and then take over the freaking universe with the Martians? Maybe because the Martians are terrifyingly powerful creatures? Anyway, I don't know, but my headcanon is that once Green went on Mode, whenever that happened to be, I'm pretty sure the Reach figured out quickly that they could not take over Mars, that the Martians would put up way more of a fight and be able to detect their deceptions way easier. So I think what happened was they put him on Mode, they realized what was happening pretty quickly, and then they pulled him off planet and said, okay, we have this now horrifying monster in addition to being a beetle. Let's use him on other worlds. And then they recruited him, pulled him back in for this maneuver on Earth, which would explain why Miss Martian had never heard of him, that, Jean may not have said anything. I don't know. He also didn't say how long he's been on Mode either, which is interesting.
Also, random thing that I just thought of and remembered, because you mentioned that he's a terrifying monster. This episode and some of the later ones this season show off the point that took me 5 years of watching this show to realize, and someone else pointing it out to me. He's a green Martian. That's what green Martians look like. And it had never occurred to me that green Martians were not humanoid while white Martians were terrifying monsters.
Oh, yeah.
They're all terrifying monsters. Martian Manhunter just makes himself look slightly alien humanoid.
Right.
To make other people feel comfortable, I assume.
Yeah, I
and
think
it had not dawned on me, despite watching this show as many times as I have, that the pieces had never clicked together. I was like,
it's a good point.
He's a green Martian, John is a green Martian, Miss Martian is a white Martian, Miss Martian's the one who looks weird. Nah, they all look weird, and I just never realized that until now.
I watched the season quite a few times before it dawned on me as well, and I'm not 100% convinced I came to that conclusion myself. It's very possible somebody may have pointed it out to me online, which I think is really interesting.
A friend of mine told me. A friend of mine on her first watch through was like, hey, it's so weird that all the Martians look like that. I thought it was only Miss Martian who was shape-shifting. And I'm like, she is.
You're mind blown. Yeah.
She's like, no, she's not. They all are. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think it's an interesting look into Jean's mentality too. Like he can, like his John Jones persona is entirely human. But when he's out there, he doesn't want people to think, he doesn't want to deceive people, but he also doesn't want to scare people. So he goes into this middle ground where it's like, no, I am an alien. I am telling you I'm an alien. This is what I am looking like while I'm here. I'm not deceiving you on that front. But also, I don't want to horrify you because I've seen your monster movies, right? I like it.
And he would have, because TV on Mars.
So
I think what also threw me out, none of that was words. What also threw me off is that there is an early issue of the comic book tie-in series where they're all talking about their backstories, where it's Robin, Kid Flash, Aqualad, Superman, and Miss Martian. Not Superman, Superboy, and Miss Martian. Right. There's a 2-part issue where they're all sitting around a campfire talking about their pasts.
Yeah.
And Miss Martian makes up a story about how she came to Earth. But all of them are illustrated, so we're not just seeing people sit around a campfire talk. We're seeing how it played out. And it's like the death of the Graysons, and it's the science experiment that turned Kid Flash into Kid Flash. And Miss Martian makes up a whole thing. But the way it is drawn, all of the aliens are drawn the way Martian Manhunter is drawn. So they are all humanoid, bald, with pupilless eyes. And so that was in my head because I'd read that. And so I just kind of went with it and was like, oh, she's only lying about what white Martians look like. No, she's lying about everything. Okay.
Wow, interesting. I have to go reread that. I keep saying that. I haven't had a chance to reread the comics in a while. I just got to binge them because I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to be doing some reviews of the comics. So, well, the only other crashing the mode had to do with what you were saying earlier about KF and Impulse.
Yes.
About how Impulse has all the powers, right? So he's got the vision, he's got the brain speed and the speaking speed, he can vibrate through walls and all these things that Wally can't do. Which was actually a thing in the comics as well, that he was slower and that kind of thing than Barry was. But after Barry died in the 80s, originally, he came back a few years ago, which I was literally bummed about. Barry's my Flash. I'm going to talk about this in this Secret Origins that I still haven't done. I'm sorry. But I have the notes down. I'm going to do it very, very soon once the kids get back into school and that kind of thing. Sorry, everyone. But Barry's my Flash. I grew up with that Flash. He was always my Flash. And it wasn't, when he died, it was heartbreaking. And then Wally came on the scene, and I was like, I hate Wally. I don't hate him. But, like, he's not as good as Barry. He's just like a replacement. He's just a weaker replacement. I don't like him. And it wasn't until Mark Waid, brilliant comic writer in my opinion, wrote a comic called 0 Hour. It was issue 0 on one of the reboots of DC Comics, where they had Wally running through time and going back in time and talking to himself as a little kid. Go find that episode. That issue. It's inspiring to me. It made me realize why Wally is so different. It hammered home this idea that Wally loves being a superhero, that his life is everything he wants it to be, right? On top of that, he ends up later on, like in the comics, disappearing into the Speed Force and that kind of stuff. And when he comes back, he's actually more powerful than Barry. He has more powers. In fact, they incorporate some of the abilities that are technically Wally's powers into the TV show Flash. So the lightning control and that kind of stuff. He vibrates through objects. He can make them explode. Like he can impart the Speed Force into other people, which Barry could never do. Like amazing. His powers get turned up to 11. It's fantastic. Whether they're going to do that or not, I don't know. Greg Weisman has been pretty clear that he does not care for the Speed Force. He does not understand that concept in the comics. They've never said anything about Wally technically being in the Speed Force. If it was the Speed Force, Barry and Impulse were running faster, so why wouldn't they have gone instead of Wally? There's some questions. We'll see how it pans out. That doesn't mean that he won't necessarily come back and be more powerful. It just maybe Greg came up with a different solution. So something.
I don't care how. I just want Wally back.
I know. Nobody cares. They just want Wally.
They could literally just be like, he's here.
We're all good.
And I'd be like, fine. That's good. That's fine with me. You don't need a clever reason.
All right, let's dive into some fan service. We're going long on this one.
I've admired your stance on animal rights for years.
Okay, so I have the fan service this week. And it is an amazing documentary that I watched recently called She Makes Comics. I'm just going to say first, it's on Amazon, it's on iTunes. I think it's on demand on cable and stuff. So that's where you can find it if you want to watch it after I talk about it. But it's about the history of women in the comic book industry as writers, as artists, as publishers, as readers, all talking about the role women have played in this industry throughout the decades. Women who have been there from the beginning, women who are newly writing comics, how comics as a medium and as an industry evolved as female voices were able to be heard more, and it was incredible. I tweeted about it briefly when I first watched it, and this documentary brought me to tears in the best possible ways, of both talking about how horrible things have been for people like me who are female and love comics and are creative individuals, and also brought me to tears in how much we have come from that point and how amazing some of the things we are able to do now in comics and the characters that we have now because women stepped in and said, what if we did this instead? And it was incredible. And I loved it.
Nice. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw you posting about it, so I'm going to have to check it out.
There's an entire segment about Wendy Peeney and
Yay!
Elfquest, so that was cool. She was real cool because she also talked about how when she was younger, early days, she went to conventions and cosplayed before cosplay was like a big thing.
Yeah.
So she got to talk about that both as like she cosplayed comic book characters, and then she went on and she created a comic book
that other people regularly cosplay.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm looking forward to that. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, I think we can wrap up this mission and head out of the warehouse. The best way to support the show is, of course, with a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice.
Please continue to hashtag buy YJ Comics on Comixology, and I would tell you to keep hashtag keep binging YJ, but we can't because it's not on Netflix anymore. Whoops! But you can still buy it from Amazon, from iTunes, from wherever Young Justice is sold. So check it out if you want to purchase it for yourself so you can keep watching in the months between now and the DC streaming service going up, because we're pretty sure that seasons 1 and 2 will be there, because if they're not, that would make no sense. In the meantime, you can also now use hashtag Young Justice Outsiders when talking about season 3 and all of the new information we have about that now after Comic-Con. And if you want to help us get more episodes, more Secret Origins, actual play podcasts, and all of the other stuff, please consider supporting us through Patreon. For just a few dollars a month, you can help us do even more with the show while getting some great rewards for yourself.
Unlike a lot of our episodes, we're actually fairly topical with this one because I think this episode airs next week. We're not like 6 episodes ahead of time. So I do want to remind people that both Neal and I will be at Gen Con in Indianapolis, Indiana on the August 17th. I'll be there through the following Monday. I'm actually arriving on Wednesday morning early. I'm taking a red eye, and I'm leaving on Monday morning. If you're going to be in Indianapolis at all, period, or if you're going to be at Gen Con specifically, please come by and see us. We'll both be doing tons of stuff over the weekend. You're welcome to tweet at us or email us, and we'd be happy to see you and say hi. But specifically, we will be Saturday night at the One Shot Podcast Gathering. It is being held in the JW Marriott, and I can't not remember exactly where. I'm so sorry. If you go to my personal Twitter account at Umbra Walker, or if you go to the Whelmed, the YJ Files Twitter, even if you're not on Twitter, you can actually see the stuff that's posted there. Go there, and I'll make sure to have a link pinned to the top for where the gathering is and when it's happening. It's Saturday night, I think, starting at 7, and I'm sure we'll be there till midnight or 1 o'clock. You can meet a lot of the people that you've heard on our discussion sessions. Neal's going to be there, obviously. Ishan Sherwood's going to be there. I think Darcy Ross is going to be there. There's going to be a ton of people you've heard us talk about in the past, and you'll meet some people who are going to be coming up in the future. Aram Vardian, Ro Heat from Gamers Plane are all planning on coming on the show as well. So come see us there.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say before we head off, I just wanted to say with Patreon, even if you aren't giving us any money through Patreon, you should check out our Patreon, because sometimes there is just bonus stuff up there that you can listen to or look at or whatever or read that you don't even have to give us $2 to get access to it eventually, because it goes public, and then you can see things like stuff from our Masks game and other stuff. So check that out. Just give it a look.
There's actually, I think this week, several things went public. One was the break cut from our mask game, which is pretty funny, that Neal edited up. And then also you can hear Emily doing a panel on one of the local conventions that she was at as well. I think both of those things went public this week. And then there'll be stuff coming up in the following weeks as well that go public. There are exclusive things for Patreon backers, but some of this extra bonus material, we're just giving the Patreon backers a sneak peek, and come on by and check it out.
And remember,
stay whelmed, everyone.
You've been listening to Whelmed, the Young Justice Files podcast. Our hosts are Rich Howard and Emily Booza. Our editor and producer is Neal Powell. Our theme was composed by Emily Mio. Our logo was created by Kevin Bates. Whelmed is a fan-made podcast and is not officially affiliated with DC Comics, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Animation, and any other owners of Young Justice or its related source material. As such, these companies have sole ownership of all symbols, images, names, logos, and proprietary material related to Young Justice. Original content of this podcast is ours under Creative Commons. Thanks for listening, and stay whelmed.